The starship Vanguard drifted in silent orbit above the jade-colored world of Luria. Its hull bore the scars of long patrols along the frontier, but its crew remained, sharp and ready. Among them was a human envoy named Rian, who had been assigned as the official representative to the Lurian royal court. The mission was simple in writing yet complex in practice. He was to establish peaceful contact with the ruling house and open negotiations for mutual defense. The border regions had grown unstable, and the Lurians, once isolationist, had finally signaled their willingness to speak. Rian prepared carefully as the shuttle descended. Luria was a world of ancient mountain ranges and glimmering crystalline forests. The Lurians possessed remarkable biological adaptations, often growing natural armor plates that shimmered with the colors of their noble houses. Their royalty adorned themselves with ornate crests to show lineage and authority. Rian had read every page available. He knew he had to approach with respect. When the shuttle landed at the foot of the royal spire, he was greeted by guards whose armor gleamed like polished stone. They carried staffs that emitted faint pulses of light. Their movements were controlled and disciplined. They spoke no words as they escorted him through the tall corridors of the palace. Patterns of living crystal flowed across the walls and gave the structure a strange sense of being alive. He was led toward the throne chamber, where the royal court normally met visitors. Yet after a moment of quiet communication among the guards, one of them gestured toward a side passage instead. The guard explained calmly that circumstances had changed. The princess had summoned Rian directly. There would be no formal audience hall. She wanted privacy. This was said as though it were entirely normal, but Rian sensed tension in the air. Something had happened. He was guided to a tall door formed from a single translucent slab. The guard stepped aside without speaking further. Rian took a steady breath and entered as the door slid open with a soft, crystalline hum. Inside was a chamber lit by a gentle blue glow. The walls curved like the inside of a seashell, patterned with flowing lines of bioluminescent script. Standing at the center was the princess herself. She was tall and graceful with pale silver skin that caught the glow and reflected it softly. Her crest, which should have been a ceremonial display of her station, was nowhere to be seen. Her natural armor plates were absent as well. She wore no royal regalia. She was completely unadorned. To a Lurian, this state was the equivalent of meeting someone without armor or symbols, a moment of complete vulnerability and trust. She froze the instant Rian stepped inside. Her violet eyes widened. She clearly had not expected him to enter so quickly, and her expression carried unmistakable surprise. She stood in that unarmored state because she had been preparing for a ritual that required shedding all symbols of rank. It was meant for privacy. And now a human envoy had walked in unannounced. Rian halted mid-step. He made no sudden movements. He bowed slightly in a gesture the Lurians recognized as respect. The princess exhaled slowly and regained her composure. Her voice, when she spoke, had the resonance of crystal chimes. She asked why the guards had sent him early. Rian explained they had simply guided him without comment. She sighed in a way that suggested she already suspected the cause. There had been political tension within the palace. Some factions opposed human contact and sought to disrupt her plans. She apologized for being in an unarmored state. Rian responded that he understood this represented vulnerability for her people, and he would show respect. The princess studied him intently. She noted that humans possessed no natural armor, and yet walked confidently among species that did. She found this both curious and admirable. Rian replied that humans compensated through adaptability and determination. This seemed to interest her further. She motioned for him to step deeper into the chamber. She explained that she had begun a rite called the First Truth. It was a ritual that symbolized honesty between leaders. By meeting him without armor, she had shown the highest form of trust even if by accident. She asked if he would accept this gesture with equal sincerity. Rian agreed without hesitation. The princess introduced herself as Lura. Her voice was calm and measured. She spoke of how her world had been threatened by an unknown fleet. Their borders had been attacked in the past cycle. Many believed the attackers would return. She feared her people could not withstand another assault alone. She believed humans were different. Humans did not abandon allies. Humans defended ideals even when outnumbered. Her analysis came from studying countless human records. She believed humanity carried a rare strength that could reshape the future. Rian listened carefully before responding. He told her that humanity also valued meaningful partnerships. If Lura sought cooperation, then humans would stand by them. Lura nodded thoughtfully. She approached him with slow, deliberate steps. Rian could see the grace and precision in her movement. She circled him as though evaluating him. She then spoke again. She said that a leader must see the nature of an ally not through words, but through presence. She asked him to speak of humanity not as a diplomat, but as an individual. Rian described humanity's struggles. He spoke of the long expansion across harsh star systems and the persistence required to survive. He explained how unity had grown from challenge. Lura seemed moved by the sincerity in his tone. A moment of quiet passed between them. The princess then revealed something unexpected. She said she had not summoned humans merely for military aid. She had summoned them because she believed her people stood at a crossroads. The Lurians had isolated themselves for generations. This had allowed stagnation to take root. She believed that opening their borders would inspire new growth. She wanted her people to evolve beyond tradition. But many resisted her vision. They wanted to keep the old ways. They wanted to maintain distance from outsiders. Lura said that meeting Rian unarmored might place her in political danger because her opponents would claim it symbolized an unauthorized bond. Rian assured her he would explain the misunderstanding if necessary. She paused, then thanked him. She stepped toward a pedestal near the center of the chamber. A crystal sphere sat upon it. Light swirled within. She touched it gently, and a map of star systems appeared above it. She highlighted the sectors where threats had been detected. Rian studied the map. He recognized patterns of movement used by raider fleets across the frontier. They strategized together. They discussed potential joint patrols. They outlined supply routes that could be protected by coordinated efforts. Lura listened intently. She valued Rian's tactical knowledge. He in turn admired her calm but decisive nature. She carried the weight of leadership with both grace and determination. Hours passed as they worked. Despite her unarmored state, she remained composed. She observed Rian with curiosity. Humans lacked the biocrystalline enhancements of Lurians, yet possessed a confidence she found unusual. She asked if it was true that humans often ventured into unknown regions with minimal protection. Rian confirmed it. She found this both daring and reckless, yet strangely admirable. After reviewing potential treaties, Lura revealed a final truth. She said that when a Lurian leader meets an ally without armor, it creates a bond of responsibility. She clarified that this bond was symbolic rather than romantic. It meant she trusted him to act with integrity. Rian replied that he would honor such trust. Before they concluded the meeting, an alarm echoed faintly through the palace halls. Lura stiffened. She retrieved a small device that pulsed with urgent light. She explained that unidentified vessels had entered orbit without authorization. Rian immediately recognized the tactic as one used by raider fleets to intimidate before assault. Lura took a steady breath and asked if humanity would stand by its promise even now. Rian answered without pause. Lura touched a control panel, and her armor plates began to materialize from hidden compartments beneath the floor. They rose like metallic petals and attached to her with precise movement. In seconds, she stood fully armored, the crest of her house glowing softly. She looked powerful and resolute. Together, they moved toward the command balcony, overlooking the skies. The raider ships loomed like shadowed blades against the clouds. Lura issued strategic commands with sharp clarity. Rion contacted the vanguard through his wrist communicator. He relayed the situation. The vanguard maneuvered into defensive formation above the palace. The raider fleet demanded surrender. Lura refused with unwavering firmness. Rion advised her on defensive positioning. Human and Lurian forces locked into joint formation for the first time in history. The raiders opened fire. The sky erupted with streaks of energy. The palace shields flared with blinding light. Rion felt the balcony shake beneath his feet. Lura shouted orders. Her voice carried strength that resonated across the command deck. She coordinated her forces with impressive precision. Rion transmitted tactical suggestions based on human fleet experience. The joint forces responded quickly. The raider ships found themselves outmaneuvered. The vanguard launched counterfire with controlled intensity. Lurian interceptors swept in elegant arcs, weaving between enemy barrages. The combined strategy worked. Raiders attempted retreat, but their formation had been broken. Lura ordered pursuit only until they left Lurian space. She refused to waste lives on extended combat. Her decision revealed her character. She had strength, but also restraint. When the threat had passed, Lura returned to the chamber where Rion had first met her. She removed her armor plates section by section until only a simple ceremonial layer remained. She turned to Rion and said that the first truth between them had proven itself through action. She believed humans and Lurians could step into a shared future. Rion agreed. She thanked him for his courage. She added that she would formally announce an alliance before her council. She acknowledged that some would oppose, but she would stand firm. She said that Luria needed evolution. It needed new connections. It needed allies who would not falter. Rion said he would deliver the same message to human command. He predicted that humanity would support a world that showed such resolve. Lura smiled faintly, and the glow of the chamber reflected in her eyes. She told him that the moment he entered and found her unarmored had become a turning point. It had forced honesty. It had stripped away ceremony. It had allowed them to speak without barriers. Rion nodded. He felt a sense of respect for the princess that ran deeper than diplomacy. She had risked vulnerability and stood bravely in crisis. She embodied the qualities that HFY stories often celebrated. She saw humanity not as conquerors or outsiders, but as partners in forging a better future. As the meeting drew to a close, Lura touched the crystal sphere again. A new map appeared. It showed combined patrol routes marked in lines of silver and blue. She told Rion that this was the beginning. More structures of cooperation would follow. More joint ventures would be built. More understanding between their peoples would grow. Rion promised to return soon with the full support of the human fleet. He bowed respectfully before departing. Lura watched him leave with thoughtful calm. She understood that the alliance formed that day would alter the future of both civilizations. The door slid closed behind Rion as he stepped back into the corridor. He felt the air hum with renewed purpose. He knew the story of what had happened would be retold for generations. A human envoy had walked into a chamber where a princess stood unarmored and unprepared. Shock had been evident. Yet instead of chaos, the moment had crafted unity. It had ignited trust. The joint future of humanity, and Luria began not with grand ceremony, but with an accidental meeting, a moment of honesty, and two leaders standing side by side against the unknown.